Did Bud mention what we were going to be talking about today, guys?
No.
They were, I told Zeno earlier, but Photo AI, a Topaz thing,
Yeah, I thought that there's been a lot of discussion about Topaz of late, and yeah, I know a lot of you use it regularly and have pretty strong feelings about it. So I thought we could talk about it some today and share some ideas and see what everybody's doing with it and what you think of the latest iteration of the software. And yeah, and just have a conversation. I think it's not a well understood tool because it's changing so rapidly. You're gonna have to forgive the printer noise in the background. I'm refining a gadget, and I thought it would be finished by now, but it wasn't. So there we go. I greatly approve of anybody wearing a Dunder Mifflin t-shirt on a Saturday morning. That is first class, Zeno. Haven't seen one of those in a good long time.
Morning, Jillian.
So Susan's here, Will's here, Nick.
Oh, in audio. Hi, everyone.
Jillian, greetings.
Alistair's here, Nick's here.
Yeah, the gang's all here.
They're
Good.
hiding.
Is there anybody who is unfamiliar with Topaz or does not have Zeno? You've never used it, or you just don't have it currently? What's the deal? Your thingamajig's turned on.
Yeah, don't have it.
Don't
Never
have
even
it.
seen it in operation. So,
well,
another opportunity to learn more.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those. It's one of those tools that I've never really been that excited about add-on editing tools. I always thought they were a little bit of repackaging of the already available software, and if I knew how to use Lightroom and if I knew how to use Photoshop, then these things were a bit redundant, and they seemed awfully expensive. But that changed, I think, with the advent of Topaz's first sharpening tool, which I thought was pretty amazing. And I think Photo AI is a natural progression of that. So for anybody who doesn't use it, it is a resizing, denoising, sharpening tool that uses AI in about the way you would expect it to. It learns from your modifications and your edits. It pays attention to what you do and then offers suggestions based on what you've been doing with your photographs. So none of that's particularly surprising. That the issue I have with it, especially working with people who don't use a lot of plugins and add-ons to Lightroom or Photoshop, is not really knowing how to get started with it or how to get into it. Maybe we could just take a couple of minutes. I just randomly opened up some files in Lightroom, and I can run through the very basics of how I use the tool, and then just open it up for discussion. What I would very much like to get out of this for all of us is your ideas about how to use the tool better, and what you use it for, what kind of results you get, what you don't use it for. So I'll only take just a couple of minutes to introduce this. So if you have a photograph or two that would be a good example of how you would use Topaz, go ahead and start looking for it so that you can screen share and show us your work. I know that several of you will probably have something on hand to use. I grabbed.
Alan,
Yes, yes.
I mean, Topaz, is that ahead of Adobe Photoshop's AI? Can we consider at the moment?
I'm not sure I would say that, to be honest. I think it is very different, and the way the AI part of it works is certainly, I think, more advanced than the Adobe product. But that's another thing that I want to see what everybody else feels about. It's like they leapfrog one another. The Photoshop, well, actually, the Lightroom Denoise for a while I thought was doing a better job than Topaz. Turns out I'm probably just not using Topaz to but a small percentage of its capacity, and that's why I wanted to start out just by showing you a picture. Let's do that actually, and then we'll circle back around and try to, maybe by the end of the hour or whatever, we can make a decision about which is actually ahead of the other. This program costs about $200, so it's not inexpensive, and as Topaz has done from day one, you buy it and then within a few weeks you have to buy something else, or you have to be prepared to pay to upgrade it. The upgrading process is labyrinthine with these Topaz products. I'm confident that I've got something that's going to work for a while, and then the next time I open it, there are 9 updates that are required. So I can never keep track of where I am in relation to the latest version. But I think I upgraded this morning, so I think I'm at the most recent iteration. So I'm going to share my screen for just a second. I have no idea what this is that I photographed. Some kind of a green blobby thing, a plant, but it had lots of detail, and it's a bad picture, so a good place to start. The first thing that you're going to hear about Topaz is the new Photo AI, which is ultimately going to take the place of the 3 standalone programs, the resizing, denoise, and sharpening. Is a one-stop shop for all of that, and the key to using it is using its autopilot feature. And in order to use that to maximum effect, this program likes to work with raw files. And right off the bat, we have a problem. If you want to send raw files with your camera's color profile over to Topaz, you can't do that unless you have a Canon. They're not actually haven't rolled out an icon version of that. But how you take a picture into Topaz, in my opinion, is probably the single biggest determinant of what kind of job it's going to do. Typically, what I would do if I had this picture, which I've got plenty of others. I'll find another one that's a bit more interesting in a minute. But with something like this, I would often just right-click and edit in Topaz Photo AI. That's the quickest way for me to get into any add-on. That's
Alan,
not the way to go. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is it possible before you start doing anything that we could look at the image, the subject at 100%, just so I can assess the noise and what have you?
Absolutely. I'm going to show you the image properly before we do anything with it. But that's it at 100%. I have done nothing to this. This is just right off the card. And we're right in the dead center of the picture here. Okay, 100%. So the way you would want to take this picture into Topaz is as a raw file, and because this is Lightroom, we would want to send a copy so that the original file doesn't get touched. And the way you do that is to go to your Lightroom Classic menu. It's cut off on my screen. I'm sorry, it's on the other screen, but you go to File under Lightroom Classic, and I can't drag the menu up there, but towards the bottom there is a choice for plugin extras. The way you get to Topaz is to go then to Lightroom Classic, File, Plugin Extras, and then close to the bottom is Process with Topaz Photo AI, which I click on. Gives you the option of overwriting the selection or editing a copy. Edit the copy, and it will send the raw file into Topaz. Takes just a second.
Alan?
Yes.
So the things that we get out of Zareen will never be raw. And so do you use the Photo AI then on each individual slice that you're going to stack in Zareen prior to, so you'd have to use it on the forefront of Zareen instead of the back of it?
Yeah, if you were going to use it the way that they want it to be used, to get your best results is using the Topaz program on a raw file, which obviously you can't do after it's been TIFFed in Zareen. Whether or not there is a significant difference in the final output, because once the image is stacked, that's going to change everything anyway. Yeah, you can't do this, what I'm doing now, with a TIFF. This is done. This has to be done with a raw image.
Alan,
Yep.
yeah, the way I do it for, like what Bud was addressing is I process my raw stack in Camera Raw, export the lot as TIFF files, and then I do a batch denoise in Topaz Denoise, which I find where I find it to be easier than the Photo AI
Right.
for Topaz, and it processes the TIFF files, and I just have it overwrite so that way I'm not getting file bloat. So, and then I take that into Zareen. So I just, my computer takes, I don't know, about 10 seconds frame on the TIFF files. So I get the files edited the way I want in RAW, make them TIFFs, and then run them through Topaz Denoise. And that way I can put just a skosh of denoise on them, and it doesn't get too plastic looking.
Yep. That's actually the way I do it too. But for the purposes of this initial part of the discussion, I want to focus on what we would use the Topaz AI for if we were using it the way they recommend it. I would do the same. There is no way I would do this process we're getting ready to do on every image in a stack before sending it to stack. It would take forever, and it would fill the computer with copies of the image. But yeah, I agree with you. That's what I do. Either that or batch process using Lightroom's denoise, which takes a bit longer. But yeah. So when you get in here, the program scans the image and it makes a set of recommendations, and these can be anywhere from just adding a little sharpening to denoise. I picked a noisy image. It's got a ton of noise in it, and it'll make a recommendation. When it makes a recommendation for something to be done to the image, hang on, trying to center it, it will put a little blue dot in this menu here that is showing you what the recommendations are. Now, you don't have to choose the recommendations that it's making. You can add or subtract the effect. And if you want to actually have more control over, for example, the sharpening, you could click on the menu and it will open up a sub menu where you can adjust what kind of sharpening. And they've added a whole bunch of new sharpening models, including lens blur version 2, which is a lot better than the original, motion blur and refocus. And you can adjust the strength and whether or not to add denoise to the process. And what it does is it gives you a real-time preview of what you're gonna get. Where are we? There we are. So the way I generally use it is whatever it tells me to do, I reduce the effect by something like half. I think it over sharpens most things, and especially
Alan,
yeah.
Would you mind blowing that up to 100%?
Yeah, I will. It's going to slow it down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I'm just showing you the tools right now, but yeah,
Gotcha.
that's 100 and something or other. The first thing to notice is that if you click on this button right here, you've got a before and after that you can drag across the picture. And I'll show you how I use that in just a little bit. But the different models of sharpening is what we're in right now. Are the standard, the lens blur, the motion blur, and some of these don't automatically apply denoise at all. Probably the most effective that has the most believable looking sharpen is this lens blur 2. I really like, and the natural as well. And things they've recently added to AI, which I don't use and don't like, are the color automatic color correction, and is another enhancement that they have. I can't remember what it is for right now. One of you will know. But anyway, if you want to just follow the recommendations of the program, all you have to do is accept them the way they're laid out. Otherwise, you can go in and you can make adjustments to everything. Remember that sharpening and denoise are coming at the photograph from opposite directions. I mean, when you sharpen, you're expecting the program to know the difference between detail and noise, and it doesn't always know that. So it's a good idea, if you're going to be applying denoise and sharpening, to look at what is actually happening at the level of the image, to make sure that you're not accentuating noise with your sharpening tool. But lens blur was I think the one that I like for this. You can see that there's a fairly dramatic difference in the program, but that's way overkill, I think. So yeah, that's a lot of sharpening. Let's tell you what, the exposure correction is the other thing. I never do that in Topaz. I would do all of my exposure correction back in Lightroom after it's applied these changes. Does anybody use either the color or the lighting adjustments that the new app offers?
No, I stick to the neat denoise and sharpen.
I have a comment about that. If you use either the lighting or the balanced color, you cannot output the raw image. It will turn into a TIFF.
Yeah, correct. The denoise has two flavors, normal and strong. I have never found a reason to use the strong. It really changes the color, but Yeah, so the fiddling around with the sliders is, by all means, knock yourself out. You can pretty drastically change the way the app works by using these sliders. Most of the time, I recommend, if you're just getting started with this program, is really don't mess with these. If you like the overall look of the image, the way the autopilot suggests.
Can I
yeah.
make a comment?
Yeah, you don't have to ask, just jump in.
Yeah, you see the color change?
Yeah.
That's because you're not using a Canon. So when they get the Nikon and the Sony and the Olympus, you won't see that bright green color. If you look up top, it says you have a raw, DSC 8943-2 DNG, but it's not giving you the profile. So because you don't have the proper profile, you're seeing the color shift. That will be overcome in a newer edition.
Yeah, it will, but I also didn't select a Canon profile.
No, I understand.
So it's when you can select which color profile you send it from Lightroom using the 4 squares menu option under profile. Let's go back there.
I don't think it'll work with your Nikon thing, but it might.
No, I don't. That it's this is where basically, if you use the Adobe profile that it comes with, is when you get that weird color shift. But there isn't really an option.
Can you go
unless? Say again.
Can you do a linear profile? I haven't tried it yet.
You can use. I think I've got it in here somewhere. Too many profiles. Can't keep up with all of them.
I keep mine.
But yeah, I really I don't know. I don't know why it's not showing up, but this is where you would pick your profile, and as long as it's in Adobe, you're going to get that weird looking shift. But when the picture comes back, you can correct your color the way you normally would. So going back to Topaz, let me see if I can find it. So once you decide what you're gonna let it do, there is a way, if you go to the settings, and you can't see this menu either, it's the Topaz Photo AI menu. I click on that and go to preferences, and here are the preferences. You can, with autopilot, you can load your preferences for how it's going to learn your preferences for your own edits, and the AI will modify its suggestions based on what you do with those sliders. There is a way that you can reset that under personalization. You can reset the learning. I accidentally reset the learning when I upgraded the program, but it until this morning it had a huge number of images in here that it had learned from. But if you want to start over again, you just go into autopilot personalization and reset the learning, and it will do the same thing for your presets when it's making a recommendation. If a couple of other things, by the way, worth noting are there's a lot of things that you can change, but if you're using a couple of these newer sharpening models, you can also pull in the old original motion blur model and set that up, but it'll never recommend it in your personalizations. You can use legacy tools from Topaz. I don't, but I know that you can do that. But the autopilot won't select them if you add legacy models back in. By the way, the program takes up 1.5 gigabytes of space on your hard drive with the models, which is a big program. I didn't realize it was that big when I was adding it back this morning. So when you're done, you just export the model. I mean the image, and it'll take it right back, and it'll drop a second raw file next to the original, which hasn't been changed, and allow you to start over again without having to do anything else. It does take a while. So the new image is dropped right next to the old one. That's the new one there. It does quite a good job with the noise and the sharpening. Now, of course, I'd want to go back and fix the color, but and the exposure and everything else. But yeah, so what are you guys using this for, and what's your experience been?
I've got to say that I tend to regard the Topaz Photo as rather a snapshot enhancement tool rather than, I would tend to use Topaz Noise rather than the photo, but that's just my personal preference.
Yeah, I prefer the Denoise program versus the photo program. And my usual thing is I'll be in Photoshop and then call the plugin from Photoshop. So I can undo it. I could do it to a layer and have a bit more control over it. But I also will do what does the program suggest, and then a lot of times I will back it off a bit. But like for my astro photos, it does a really good job differentiating between the noise and the stars, and stars being so small can be very.
Now, did you have to teach it?
No, because in the Denoise, it has 4 models. It has like 2 standard, and it has a low light model, which was designed for astrophotographers, and also a high noise. So if you're running an ISO of like 6400 or better, Topaz Denoise in the high noise model anticipates a lot of noise because of high ISO, and does a really good job of bringing back just the image and getting rid of the ISO noise. And I just find that the Topaz Denoise program overall, because it's not trying to do everything all at once, I just in general get a lot better results using the Denoise program.
What are you going to do when it disappears, though?
I don't know if it's going to disappear, but it's I do find that the Topaz works better than the Adobe Denoise,
right?
Because you have better control over the amount, where the Adobe, you just get it pretty much whatever they want. But with the Topaz, I can go heavy on the denoise and light on the sharpening or whatever. But I overall, with the 4 models, the standard, clear, low light, and high noise, I can almost always get a result that I like.
Does anybody use it for selective sharpening?
I have done that, especially if I have, I want to have more of it looking like a 3D. But again, I'm with Julie that I think that the Denoise has been a better program. And I think what has happened to me lately is that I had the Photo AI and I bought the whole program, I thought, and now I have to upgrade. So I can't even export out of Photo AI now for Topaz. So it's now defunct as far as I'm concerned.
Alan, could you try it with the same image and perhaps try it with Denoise as opposed to the photo?
Yeah, I do. I just basically just look at Denoise, and if I need to sharpen, it's usually very minimal. So
And the denoise sharpen is that very minimal, and you can mask, so it's only sharpening the subject.
right.
So
Well,
And
you
you can
can,
select what you want. So I do like to select sometimes if I want the foreground to be a little bit sharper than the background.
yeah, you can modify the mask that it gives you. It makes a pretty decent selection if you've got a fairly obvious foreground. So this is this is Adobe's Denoise, which yeah, it normally sets it around 45 or so. Let's see what it does. Now, you know that if you use just the denoise in Photo AI, but if you then open up the details panel for the tool, you'll notice that it's actually sharpening as well. The denoise AI tool does apply sharpening. So let's look at that next to the one that we did. That's hang on, let's find the enhanced one here. Pretty striking difference.
One on the right has only been denoised, though. It hasn't really run through a sharpening algorithm.
No, that is correct. Yeah, that hasn't been sharpened. I thought that Graham just wanted to see what the denoise would do.
No, I meant the Topaz Denoise as opposed. Do you have that?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Because that's the one I use almost entirely.
Yeah, I do.
I agree with you, Graham. I use that in the individual sharpening program. I like them both.
yeah, because I think the Photo AI just tries to do too much.
Yeah.
Well, unless you tell it not to, which I guess is
but still, even if I restrict it and all that, I still find that the Topaz denoise just does better, because again, the engine's not trying to say, okay, I'm ignoring that. It's just focusing on the denoise and sharpening, and it's hard to explain. But I have both programs, and I hardly ever bring up the photo program.
Nor do I.
Yeah.
apparently I don't have the denoise.
Yeah, it may not always show up on your Lightroom plugins, because I call it from within Photoshop, or run it as a standalone. So I just
Yeah, let me see. I don't think I bought it. In fact, I think what I did was I bought the AI instead because I didn't have both.
yeah.
Let me see if I can call it from here.
Yeah, you go into your filters, and
Yep, that's where I am.
yeah.
Noise, Topaz. No, I don't. I just have Photo AI and Sharpen.
Oh, okay.
Is it possible that Bud or perhaps Julie could, if they don't mind, demonstrate the use of
Yeah.
Topaz
Right.
Denoise?
Absolutely.
I don't have it on my laptop, but let me join
I
Zoom
do.
on my studio, and
I could show you how I would use it if you want.
Okay, yeah. That- Probably easier because I don't have it on the laptop because I don't have much hard drive space on the laptop.
Tell me about
If
it.
I share screen there, Alan,
Yep.
let's see if I've got it open. Photoshop.
I'm actually running the video AI on some family video.
Oh gosh, yeah. Now that is something I if I could afford that, I would most definitely get it. That's impressive.
It takes about 2 hours to do a 4-minute film. But these are from 1964, and now I'm doing one from 1952.
Everybody see this?
Mm-hmm.
So what I do with this, as you can see over here on the thing, I have a smart object and I've made a smart filter out of Topaz AI. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's turned off. So if I turn it on, you will see the difference. Right now I am at 100%. So I'm going to turn it on. And let's process for a second. So here it is turned on. If I click it off, you can see it off. So you can see what it's doing to the eye there. It looks like it has to process every time I do that, but so anyway, what I do is I find that some of the areas in the back, I've got both of these on 100%, 100 fill, 100% opacity. And some of the stuff that you get to see, where's that strip? I guess I have to do it every time, but some of this back in here gets a little crunchy. Let me see if I can actually move it without it reprocessing. And where do I go to get that double window thing?
The double window is only when you're in the tool.
Okay, so I have to be in Topaz AI.
Yeah.
Here I am. And let's see if I'm at 100%. Got to move a few things around. Original 100%. So I'm at 100%, but let's go a little higher. Just so you can see what happens when it crunches up. Can you see the detail in here?
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back and that's the normal. If I come up and to look at, say, hairs in the neck part here. So this is before, and this is after, okay? And so you say, yeah, that's too blurry and that's a little over sharpened. So how do I solve this? And I'll show you the way I'm using it. Doesn't mean that that's the way everybody does it. I have denoised prior to stacking, so I don't have any noise to contend with, so I don't use the denoise at all. So what I'm doing here in Photo AI, which I normally don't use, I just go to sharpen and do it a little bit, but sharpen would work the same way as what I'm going to show you to do. So let's just say we accept it, and I've already got it over here at that same thing, but let's make it even. Now let's leave it there so I can show you. So I'm gonna just get out of here because it's already saved. I think this is where I get out right here. So I'm not gonna save it. So here it is. I'm in Photoshop. You can see the reflections in the eyeball. I'm gonna turn it off. You can see what happens, that the eyes come up pretty nice. Stop it. I'm gonna have to stop turning it on and off. Okay. Finish processing.
I think one thing that we haven't really addressed, but looking at this brings it to mind. I very seldom would use this tool or any add-on for noise or for sharpness in a studio picture. I mean, I've used these pretty much exclusively for field images, single images. I think that looking at this makes me realize that it is going to have a very different effect on a picture that you've been able to control the exposure on, and you have no vibrations to speak of, and you should have a picture as sharp as your lens is going to allow, and adding that, I'm not sure that the AI models in Topaz are designed to work with pictures like this.
Well, yeah, well, I use it if I'm doing water drop collisions where I'm generally pushing the ISO so I can get the
different case, certainly.
Yeah, but if I'm doing just a regular photo stack,
If you'll,
I might do a little bit of denoise before I stack it, but it's generally not as much like as if I'm doing a landscape or a astro landscape.
if you guys
Right.
will allow me to finish, I'll show you how to do this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we were just chatting while you were reprocessing.
Got it. So if I kill, let's say I'm going to turn this, this is a mask, and I'm just going to turn it black, and you can see it goes away, right? So in this instance, let's say that I liked, whether I do or not, I liked what was happening with the eye, and I wanted some of this color to come in, because you can see when I turn it black, watch the color in that part of the eye over here kind of disappear. So I'm going to turn that black. You can see how I got kind of dull.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's say that I like some of this. Some of this is too bright, and some of this back here is way too crunchy. So what you do is, if you click on the mask, properties pops open, and one of the things you can do is change the density of the mask. So if I make a black mask, I'm hiding it all, but what if I cut the density back to 50%, right? Now I've got a gray mask. And so only half of it's being applied, or let's say 25% of it's being applied. So you can adjust that whole entire mask to get the technique that you want that looks real, okay? So if we look down at these hairs, these look pretty good now. They don't look too crunchy. If we go back to no mask, some of these look kind of crunchy. If we go to, way up here, they start to calm. So if you look at the whole picture and think of it globally, you can do it like this. Now, what if I wanted those colors back in the eye? I get me a white paintbrush and white foreground paint, and I can paint on this mask. So I can make this come down here. Let's say I don't want 100%. Let's just try 50%. And I can come and I can paint those colors back into this area where I liked it.
Now, why would you try to do all of that on one layer with one mask? Why wouldn't you just do separate layers to bring up the eye on one layer and get rid of the crunchiness on the other? So that
this is not the way I do it. I'm only demonstrating photo AI. I don't use photo AI. I do it like you say, with different layers, but I'm showing you how you can do it, was what I was trying to do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So all I'm showing you is that you can use one layer and you can get some of this color back. Let's say I wanted to put a little bit more crunch into a few of these hairs. I could come down here and paint them a little white, so I can put in, because if you look at my mask, you can see where the white is and where I'm adding, full crunch, if you would, and the rest of it, I have restricted it by whatever density I want. So wherever it's white is always going to be 100%. The remainder of the picture I can control to get it as crunchy or as uncrunchy as I wish, but I can also get the hairs to look like normal hairs. Okay. There's one other thing. I have a demo, if you'd like to see it, Alan, of what sharpening actually does. Anybody want to see anything like that, or shall we move on?
Yeah, definitely.
You think? All right. So if we go and we get a something that looks like this, and I'm going to open a smart sharpen filter, and I'm going to blow it up to the same size, which is 800%. This is what, when you get to the pixel level, what you're seeing. So all of these little squares are individual pixels. I have matched the size just because this is as far as Smart Sharpen can take it. And when you look up at the top, we have amount, radius, and noise. So if I take the radius to say 1 pixel, and I take the amount, which is at 0 to 500, watch what happens. Okay. So as I back it down to halfway, you can see what happens. So let's evaluate what's going on here, because what amount is doing is how black or how white the lines are. As I go toward 500%, they get whiter and whiter and whiter and more prominent and more prominent. Can you see that, everybody? Okay. Now, let's say that we've got it up here at a lot. Let's take it all the way to 500%. Now, what happens as we expand the radius? You see what sharpening is doing? Now, what happens if you take it way up here? So, there's a guy named Margulis that wrote the book on LAB processing, and he uses this technique to actually contour hills in a landscape. He calls it hierolome, high radius, low amount. Okay. And so he can use this as a shadowing. You see how it's light on this side and dark on this side? Let me turn the preview on and off. Look at the left image. And you can see how he could use that for contouring a hill or rocks. Okay. So this can be used as a artistic implement as well as sharpening. So if you take this radius down to say 0.7 and you take this amount up and up, I'm going to turn the preview back on because you can see what's here, but the preview will come on and you can see that it's over there as well. So watch what happens to the black line. I'm going to take the amount all the way down. And as I come up, the black line is being surrounded by white. That white is being grayed out, if you can see, because that white is semi-transparent and it's overlying this middle gray. So because of that, it's not as bright white as the other line, okay? And so as we increase this amount, you can see that all of a sudden it's 1 pixel in bright white at about 200 or so. And then all of a sudden it starts to get bigger and brighter, okay? Now, as the radius goes up, watch it widen past the 1 pixel. You see how you've got a little bit of refinement out past that pixel? Okay. They keep going. So you can see where the line starts to widen at about 2 pixels. And as you come back down toward 1.2 pixels, that's some place that I'll often use. Sometimes you can use 0.7 or 8. Okay. But remember, 1 pixel is the brightest single pixel. And then anything less than that, you're actually dulling down that white line. Okay. And when you look at the white box and you start increasing the radius, you get a black line around it. Okay. And it keeps expanding. And as you increase the amount, it gets blacker. As you decrease the amount as expected, it would get grayer. Okay. So this is the way it works. Now, this can be used in another frame of reference to do what I call dark sharpening. Let me cancel this and show you. I'm going to take the blend mode and I'm going to make that blend mode into darken. Okay. I'm going to reopen Smart Sharpen. And so now if I increase the amount and the radius and I preview it, you can see what's happening. There are no white lines, right? Because I've only allowed darkening. So I've eliminated the white half of the algorithm that sharpens by using the darken blend mode. It'll lose everybody. Can you see the white lines in the system over here?
Mhm.
They show up fine.
Are we looking at
This
individual
is
pic-
this is before, this is after. See the white lines? But because I have a darken blend mode, there are no white lines over here. I can turn that preview on and off and you won't see any white lines. I'm only using the dark lines of the sharpen algorithm. Questions?
Are we looking at individual pixels?
Yes, we are. That's what
Okay.
that grid is. So when you look at this pattern out here, let me make it even bigger, I guess, if I can. Let's see. Whoop. So you see the individual grid, the pixels? You see how there are not any white pixels around this black line at all. But yet, if you look at the preview inside of Sharpen, this is the way it should look if both lines are present. If I click on it, you can see where it started. This is where it should be. And this would be all kinds of glary, right? If I turn the preview on and off over here on the other side, the black lines go away, but there never were any white lines to start with because I've used the darken blend mode. I have eliminated the white lines. Now, if you think about an iceberg, where white lines might act as glistening, I could use the screen mode and eliminate all black lines and only use the white half of the sharpening algorithm to sharpen the picture. Okay. Questions?
Okay, so you're actually like even further smart sharpening by being more selective in what you're sharpening by just the blend mode.
Yes.
Okay,
So
and
if I had a bug and I needed some texture on that shell, let's say, I could do a dark sharpen, which restricts it only to the dark side of the algorithm, and I could slowly ease it up until I got a texture that was believable. And I've sharpened the bug when you compare it to the original, but there are no white lines to make it look harsh.
okay, so you can kind of reduce like a glare even that way.
Yes,
Sharpen the shadows, but not the reflection.
yes,
Or swap, sharpen the reflection, but not the shadow.
right.
Okay.
So that's where blend modes and sharpening can play a game that you can play with. So I thought if everybody could at least see that amount changes the blackness or whiteness of the line, as you can see here. As I raise the radius, it spreads the lines out. You can see black surrounds white, and white is on both sides of a black line, but you don't really see black going into the interior. If I take the radius way up, this is maximum radius. And look what it did.
So
Interesting.
radius is how far beyond the original pixel that the effect is happening.
Yes, and amounts how black. So if I take it like this, you see how the shadows got black? If I
Mhm.
wanted it to be a little bit of gray, there's sort of a look like you would if you vignetted something. So as you increase amount, it increases the whiteness or the blackness of those lines on either side of an edge. Good to go?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that makes a lot more sense now than,
So I can show you how the white line works if I change it. Let me do it real quick. Since you already know the concept, I'll just show you that it does indeed work. Whoop, cancel. I don't want that one. I want the Smart Sharpen one. So here is Smart Sharpen. We're going to give it some radius and we're going to give it some amount and we'll blow it up so you can see the comparisons. So in this instance, we have eliminated black lines. So if you look at this example over here and I click on it, let's see, did I get it to screen? I did get it to screen, yeah. Let's see over here. So this is what it should look like. I'm going to back down off this one so you can see it in a similar comparison. So over here, since we're looking at only white lines, I'm going to increase the radius a little bit so you can see it. So look at all the black around this white thing. There's no black here. I've eliminated those black lines nearly entirely. You've got white lines, and maybe there's a little bit of shade that screen lets through, but not much. As I bring up this radius, look at all that black that's not being transferred over. So by using either darken or, actually I should have used lighten instead of screen. Let me do that because that was my error. I don't want screen, I want lighten. I hit it the wrong way. I'll reopen Smart Sharpen. That's why it wasn't doing everything it was supposed to do. So here's our white lines and basically no black lines. You see how many black lines are missing on the picture over here? If I do the preview on and off, there's before, there's after. We're not increasing any black lines at all. So you can use the white hat or the algorithm if you want to make highlights on an iceberg, you know, and you can control them with the radius. You can make the lines skinnier or wider, and you can make them whiter or grayer. That's all I had to say, and I'll turn it back over. I'll exit my screen sharing.
Thanks, Bud.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
Bud.
Yeah,
Was that useful?
Yeah, very.
So,
Hey, take it down to pixels and play with anything, you know.
so how are you guys applying your denoise and sharpening? Graham, what's your workflow?
I do it completely differently. It's far more advanced than me. Basically, I process the image as I want with color and brightness or whatever I decide to do, often in Camera Raw. And I tend to use the Topaz Denoise as one of the last things I do. And I do that to basically to sharpen the image. And I find I very rarely need to use Topaz Sharpen. I certainly don't use Photo unless it's got better in the last little while. I just use the Topaz Denoise, and I find that is excellent.
I think the photo app is probably designed for the photographer that is looking for one button to press to do everything in any kind of photograph, basically. Where it starts to get complicated is when you're trying to use just parts of it, certainly. I think it's better than it was, and I think that they're moving towards the AI allowing you to pull out the various functionalities from the bigger picture, but it's a pain to use if you're going to use it as individual tools. But I don't think there's going to be an option. I think they're going to phase out the denoise and sharpen and resize if what I've read is accurate. So yeah, it's different tools for different purposes.
yeah. I see the photo AI is like someone that's like doing a landscape or something like that, and just wants like the one-stop shopping and
Yep.
and
Yep.
but I find Denoise is a little bit more particular and precise.
Yeah, I think it's different tools for different photographers, really.
I think you're going to stop supporting it eventually, but I think if you bought it, you own it.
It doesn't seem that way, Bud, because I bought it and now I can't export anything from Topaz Photo AI.
No, I'm not talking about Photo AI. I'm talking about the Sharpen and the Denoise, because us that originally bought these things, part of the license was that it was ours, basically.
Okay.
And
That's what I thought
initially
it
it was
was
going to
for
be
photo.
updated forever, but they squelched on that.
Yeah, but the way that Denoise works now, if incremental updates, I don't know if it works good enough basically for me that if they stop improving it, I'm good. But
Same here.
because I'm not using it to recover like total dreck in my photos, and but just as a final, touch up, if there's a little bit of noise left, if I had to shoot high ISO for some reason, and like if I'm doing bird photography, sometimes I need to do some sharpening because, just the nature of shooting birds in flight. But
Yep.
I ended up using the Adobe Denoise, but I do it before I stack, which takes a couple of hours. And I compared it to the Denoise because I like Denoise. And I think Denoise is better after the fact than before the fact because Adobe, I'm not partial, seemed to win out in my hands.
yeah, I tried your method, Bud, and I did one using the Adobe Denoise, and I found that looked a little bit too plasticky. And if I exported my stack as TIFFs and did a batch denoise, just a scotia of denoising and a little bit of sharpening, I found the results looked a little bit more natural than.
Okay, I'll give that a
plastic.
shot. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice to know.
Yeah, because I think denoise in Adobe is too global. It's not as refined as the Topaz yet. It might get there, but I don't find that I like the results as much as the Topaz.
Give it a shot. Anybody else?
Who's doing something else different? What are you using, Zeno?
You guys are so far over my head, I'm just trying to follow.
Gotcha. Gary's agreeing.
You guys are so far ahead of me. I'm too busy farming.
Well, anybody got anything else they want to add? I think that it's a work in progress. There are quite a few videos out on YouTube about this program. I would caution anybody who's thinking about getting it or has it and wants to know better how to use it to make absolutely sure you're watching a current video. The number of iterations in Topaz is bewildering, and you can if you're off by one release, you can end up learning about a function that isn't even in the program anymore. But
I got in touch with Dave Kelly at The Joy of Editing, and he gave me permission if you guys want to see a short video of his on the Topaz AI. If you haven't looked at him, or you can go and look for yourself. But The Joy of Editing, where he looks at Topaz AI, he can make it dance pretty well.
Yep, I watched that video. He's got several actually that address the latest release of AI. But I guess that's the point I was making. Is you can do everything that you can do in the individual apps in Photo AI. You just have to do it manually, and it kind of defeats the purpose of the one-stop shop. So I think very few photographs that I think a standard profile is going to fit. Now, of course, the beauty of the AI part of the program is it's going to learn as you go. So presumably, if you use the Photo AI program and you modify your individual settings when you edit your macro photographs, it'll eventually learn what you like to do. I'm just not sure I have the energy to do that. So, who's got something else or anything else you want to talk about related to post-processing? It's your discussion. Any questions for Bud? Anybody having any issues? Anybody got a photograph they want to ask about or show off?
It's a little off kilter, Alan.
Huh?
but I think most of us are on Macs, aren't we?
I don't know. I think probably 50-50.
No, I guess
Okay.
50.
I'm back.
It's just the Sequoia updates now out there, and I think at the moment, if it helps anyone who's going to look to update, the only thing I'm fighting with seems to be the file sharing.
Oh God, what's it doing?
It's really just putting the permissions back in place. I think it's because they usually gets an update, usually gets tightened a bit more each time. And I think they might well tend to remove them, but it might have been I blipped a bit on the update in doing it, so it might run through smoothly.
How long has Sequoia been out?
Just over a week now.
Oh, okay.
Still
but too early for me.
It came out on Monday.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's I do usually hold off, but I've been following the Mac forum and seeing what happens there. But everything that I would rely on for all of this is up and running. The only thing I say I've got a problem with is actually connecting one of my the file share effectively with the photos. But I should have that done by the end of today. Other than that, yeah, nothing's blipped. Zoom's working, all this sort of thing. Unfortunately, I don't use Photoshop and Lightroom, but I've not seen anything in the forum saying it's all, gone to rat poo or something.
So that's a good point, Nick. You're not using Photoshop and Lightroom. Are you using Topaz? Have you integrated
No, I'm
that?
still keeping myself in the corner of Affinity, and really it's because Affinity got bought out recently on a premise that very likely they will be coming along with some AI stuff. Hopefully not too far off, but the company that's bought them, I think that was the whole basis of that. And so far, what I, noise and sharpening is something that Affinity looks to do what I would need. I guess I'm more hands-on with all the processing. I'm quite content to put all the raw images through it because it can do batch processing.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to just get them to the TIFF stage for the stacking. And then once I got the TIFF output from Zerine, that's when I'll go into Affinity and start doing the actual post-processing, which, what Bud's been sharing with us and teaching us is all paying dividends. It's all working for me. It's showing me. But clearly I've got quite a bit of work to do with pre-processing because my lighting at the moment is pants. But I'll get there with that. But yeah, the processing I generally wait until I've got the Zerine output. Just finding I used to do a lot of raw processing, get the thing whole and to get the image out. But I've just sort of went with it. Well, I said to be fighting it. If you just want the TIFF files of Zerine, and then I thought, well, let's see what happens afterwards. And it doesn't seem to be hurting the thing.
Fair enough. Is there anybody else using a non-Adobe program and interfacing with Topaz?
No.
All right. Bud, do you have anything else that...
No, I think I've already assaulted you with the sharpening thing.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, do you consider the ultimate viewing conditions like a monitor or a print when you're doing all this processing?
What do you mean by consider?
Well, is your ultimate product a print on the wall or on the monitor or Instagram?
Actually, I can only speak for myself. 99% of what I produce is for internet. So, you know, my standards for a lot of this are basically predetermined by compression and YouTube algorithms, because that's where my stuff is going to be shown. So I don't spend you know, the kind of hours at 200% trying to get things perfect when it's going to be compressed. And
I'm on the other side of that coin. I make everything that's print compatible, but do I print everything? No. But you can create a curve when you print, because the print, as you see it on screen, is not going to be exactly the same as it comes out of the printer, as everybody knows. So you can make a curve and pull a little red line or a little blue line, whatever you can do. You can make one layer that you can add on top of your finished product to send it to the printer. I just call it a print layer.
And the resolution, you're working at like 240 or something?
Each
Original
printer
file.
has its own individual, I have a, what do you call it? Not a Canon, but the other one, blocking on it. Anyway, it's 360 native.
Epson?
Epson, thank you.
Right.
It's 360 native. And so
Right.
I basically, if I'm going to get native, that means that I get every pixel that I've generated will end up in that print. Okay.
Right.
But 300 looks just fine. I mean, it doesn't go that far off base. Not enough that you will ever see it, but you have to understand that the inks are going to spread out a bit. So you have to add some output sharpening. So what looks sharp on the screen is not going to look good in the print. It needs more. So there's three types of sharpening. There's capture sharpening, and that's what Adobe does when you take it into Lightroom. It has 25% on that sharpening thing. They're giving you a little bit of sharpness so that your picture will look good. Second is selective sharpening. You can go through and select individual parts along the way, and then you have output sharpening if you want to print it. Question?
Anything from anybody else to wrap things up?
You heard from Sydney?
Hmm?
Have you heard from Sydney?
I have not. I have not.
Okay. I can't wait.
Yep, I'll give him a call again today. It's yeah, it's a pretty day here. We're getting ready to have storms for the next week, so I might get out and try to take some pictures.
I was thinking about going out with a net and catching some bugs.
Yeah, well, my days are numbered, I think, on bugs for this year. I don't think there'll be that many when the snows start.
Alan,
Excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, to answer your question you had about the pictures from last month's competition, that was a real microscope, except it's kind of a toy digital video microscope. So it's
What was the question I asked?
You asked what if that was a real microscope objective in the,
Oh yes, I remember
so,
now. Yeah.
So that was it was actually on the slide, it was actually a fragment of a tooth that broke. and
it wasn't a leg?
No, it was a shard of my molar.
Oh, okay.
And
Well,
I was trying to see if it looked good under magnification. It didn't, but that was it was kind of, it was like $100 microscope I got on Amazon. You could do a video magnification, and it's kind of like a classroom thing, and you could make like a 8 megapixel photograph JPEG on it. So but I use it to check my crystals before I set up to shoot them, just to see which slides are viable. But
excellent.
it was technically a real microscope, but it's like kind of like a toy.
I couldn't tell, and Amy and I argued about it for a while as to whether it was real or not. But it was a great photograph, a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody tried
Anybody
to
willing to break it?
tackle the submerged category for this month?
I'm working on it over on my bench now with some foliage from the yard.
Okay.
Yeah, some
Alan,
color flash.
sorry.
I've got an idea on mine too.
Alan, I just wanted to ask, I sent you a Patreon message about my picture from the last competition. I just wanted some feedback.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you said you might do that, and I did ask.
I'll do that
Thank
for anybody that's asked for it. I just haven't been over there this week.
That's fine.
As far as other news, I'm meeting with Leicester this week for our second go around. Should be interesting.
I'm halfway through his second book.
Wow.
I need to get going so that I'm ready. I'm about halfway through as well. But anyway, it's going to be I'm sure a fun discussion, and I'll be releasing that shortly thereafter. Trying to think if there's anything else.
Have you done anything with the Galoy and the Nikon? That's changing your mind?
That's actually going to be a topic for discussion this week. There's been a lot of talk about the high speed field focus stacking with continuous light, and the camera that he uses. The whole question of global shutter and the issues with rolling shutters when you're using Nikon equipment for the same kind of technique. I think there's enough in there that I'm going to bring that up as a separate discussion in the live stream. So if you've been following along with that, do tune in on Tuesday.
Perfect.
And we're gonna. It's all is not perfect in paradise. I mean, I've been doing a lot of experimenting with the Z8, and there are some issues with the technique. So we'll be talking about that on Tuesday.
What do you think, Graham? I see you nodding over there.
Oh no, it's something I've considered for a long time, but it's especially that the Olympus camera that makes it feasible. My cameras will do sort of like 15 shots or something and hit the buffer. It's pointless. I can do that with flash and using external power supply, high voltage power supplies. But and I thought, well, I almost very nearly bought it. In fact, I actually bought a big light to do it. I cancelled it in the end. My gut feeling was that I would have to buy that particular camera in order to get, until I get or someone donates me a camera that's capable of doing that frame rate and buffer rate, really.
It's I think a big part of it is also the sensor size. When you're trying to do this, with a 50 megapixel sensor, and you're writing your data's taking a 30th of a second, you're going to get rolling shutter unless you have a global shutter. So yeah, you either buy a $6,000 Sony or an OM1. And it doesn't appear that there's a lot of middle ground there, so we'll see. I'm doing some testing this weekend.
I don't think I'm allowed to buy another camera right now.
Yeah, my camera.
I know.
AutoStack.
Yeah,
I'll have to try that.
So it's the Sony is the one that has the global shutter.
yeah. The A9. That's what you have, Amy, isn't it?
No, I have an A7R4 and a 5. But I believe that I could do this with that camera. Also, I dropped in the chat a link to a young man's channel where he basically shows the other approach to focus stacking in the field using flash. So this is a similar technique that Thomas Shahan uses. So you're moving the camera.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of the two approaches to it.
Well, there's a third. I think that video is going to
Yeah, you
be
could,
interesting.
yeah, you could do that too.
Yep, definitely. Okay. Well, I hope everybody has a relaxing weekend and maybe take a picture or two. Thank you, Bud, for, as always, your expertise and guidance in this. If anybody has any questions or concerns or comments, get in touch. And
What would you guys like to talk about next time?
The TK panel, can you go into that?
Do what now?
The TK9, I think it's up to 9 now, TK9 panel and how you use that in your workflow.
Sure.
sounds good. We talked about it a couple of times ago, but that would be we never really did get into how you use the thing, Bud. So
If somebody wants to send me a picture, or if you'd like to send me one, Amy, I can show you what I would do with your picture. I'll show you what I can do with the bug. And if anybody else has a picture that they would like, don't be bashful. You know, Nick is the only one that's sent a picture, I think, so far. Maybe Jillian, and you know,
and Alan.
and Alan. So
All right, I'll send one.
you guys pitch in and send some stuff. Let us.
Yeah.
There's no
I'd like to
embarrassment to it.
support the TK panel request.
What's that?
No, I also support the TK panel request. I've been waiting for that.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. All right then.
We shall
votes.
delve into it.
All right, that's TK next time. Very good. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe.
Alan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bud and Alan.
Yeah, I
Take
did do some AfterStack recap, just mentioning that it was the other Dave Kelly and that we just barely touched on TK, so nothing biggie.
Okay. Very good. The other Dave Kelly. I feel bad for the poor guy. I wonder if that's what his wife calls him.
But I started using that curve thing now to
Yeah.
fix the over highlights. I mean, I never even considered using curves in Lightroom before.
And I'm using it too. Works well.
It's
Yeah.
pretty clever. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
So it
Interesting
wasn't a lost
discussion.
cause. It was a kind of a happy accident or whatever. But
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
yeah,
Serendipity.
Destiny.
yeah.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Take care.